seconds.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to On the Pipe Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Shepperson, and this is another episode of OTP's Weekend Review with Stu. We are recording this late on a Wednesday, March the 30th, 2022. I appreciate everyone's patience. I appreciate everyone's persistence. I appreciate everybody reaching out to me and reaching out to Stu, and it is my sincerest apologies that we missed last week and that we missed this week. And by we, I mean me. This is all on my shoulders. Thank you all for listening. The podcast is at a point that I never would have thought that it would get to as far as listening and engagement and having you guys all along. I couldn't be any more grateful for that. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And it's at the point now where I've kind of taken breaks in the past that were unannounced and it kind of went by the wayside. And now it's at the point where I take a break and I get held accountable because there's so many of you all listening. So, like I said, I cannot thank you enough for your support for this podcast. I cannot thank you enough for listening to this podcast. Because of your support and because of you listening to this podcast, I will be having very big news that we will announce next week. So I've kind of been working on it. Last week and this week, like I said, it is on my shoulders. I'm not going to bore you with the whole story of everything that happened or everything that is going to happen because at the end of the day, nobody cares. You just want to hear the podcast and you want to hear the content, and I get that, and I understand. But a lot of things have been put into perspective for me. I've had a lot of a struggle, a lot of a mental struggle, and I know it's kind of weird to talk about that sort of thing, so I'm not going to go into detail, but your support and your listening to the show means the absolute world to me. Once again, my apologies for last week and this week. I have a solution for it going forward. I can't speak about it quite yet. Stu and I kind of allude to it a little bit here on the show coming up because he knows what's going on, but it's just a time that now more than ever, I wanted to start this one off by saying thank you and sorry. Going forward, I'm expecting a lot of changes in the podcast, and like I said, as soon as I can talk about it and bring you more information, I plan to do so. There have been other sponsors that are waiting to come on board and that want to come on board to represent themselves, their products, their services in a few different instances. And until I was able to work everything out and do everything that I have kind of in the works now, I didn't want to go down that path. So I know a lot of them are listening to the show right now, and I know it does seem like I've kind of been ignoring people and kind of putting things off. Trust me, it's all going to be the best at the end of the day. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited about the future, and I hope that you will continue to support On the Pipe Podcast. And going forward, it's going to be critical. So, yeah. Thank you for joining me for tonight's episode of OTP Weekends Review with Stu. Before we get started and get Stu on the line here, we are going to be talking about the Tiger Run GNCC. We kind of go off in a few different tangents, as always. You should expect that by now. It was a really fun episode, a lot of information, good bit of laughs, good bit of serious detail, good bit of breaking down other people once again in a constructive criticism type of way. So, if you're listening to this, it might be you. I guess you're going to have to wait and find out. Before we get to all that, I wanted to say thank you to our official manufacturer sponsor that we do have currently, and it is Beta Motorcycles. Beta Motorcycles is the official manufacturer of On the Pipe Podcast. Beta Motorcycles has been family owned and operated since 1905. They manufacture the finest enduro, trials, and dual sport motorcycles that are known for their premium quality and rideability. Beta motorcycles are the best looking bikes on the market and back it up with their superior performance. Head over to betausa.com for more information on their available models or to find a dealer near you to get yours today. On the last episode of On the Pipe Podcast, we talked about how I was going to be riding my Beta motorcycle for the first time, and I did just that. I brought it down to the Full Gas Sprint Enduro, and I rode a couple laps around the Enduro test. I wasn't able to put boots on because right where the boots flex and crease at the ankle is right where the screws in my ankle are for the rod that's through my leg. So unfortunately, I was only able to ride it I had skate shoes. I wore Vans at the time. So I wasn't able to push it, kind of dab my foot like as soon as I went into the woods. So then that kind of had me skittish the whole time. But man, that bike is insane. I mean, it falls right in any rut you want. The power is so usable, and it's awesome. I got the 300RR, so the 302 stroke. Today, I actually loaded it up, went and rode with my buddies, and it was awesome. I put boots on. I had knee braces, the whole 9 yards. I was able to push it a little bit and really get the feeling of riding again. I'm still a little bit skittish about my leg and dabbing it and crashing and things like that. So it was awesome to actually get some meaningful riding time on that bike, and it's awesome. I can't wait to get that thing dialed in for me and get it broken in, and it's great. I'm telling you, the power, very usable. This whole rideability thing that they talk about, you don't understand it until you ride a Beta motorcycle. Dustin Simpson, one of my good buddies, he actually took it for a lap today, and he was impressed with it. Like, that was the first thing he said when he brought it back, is that he was impressed with it, and it was better than he thought it would be. And they really are. A lot of people, I think, are just unfamiliar with Beta, but if you go ride a Beta, look out for a Beta demo day. Go ride these things. You're going to be surprised and you're going to be impressed. Plus, I've gotten so many compliments on how it looks, because they really are a very great looking stock bike. And this is me saying this out of my personal belief. So anyway, go check out Beta Motorcycles, betausa.com. Also, big thanks to our buddies over at Armored Graphics. If you need a graphics kit for your bike, check them out at armoredgraphics.com or at Armored Graphics on the socials. And make sure that you use promo code OTP when you check, or OTP20 when you check out online, and that will save you 20% off your graphic kit orders. We all know how much graphic kits cost. They're not cheap. And 20% off of those prices is a significant amount of money. And because you listen to my voice on this podcast, you can save 20% off of your Armored Graphics. Check them out, armoredgraphics.com. With that being said, we're going to get straight into the results of the Tiger Run GNCC and discuss them with Stu Baylor. So looking at our results from the weekend, Bigger Buck racing down in Union, South Carolina. Our women's pro class, we saw that come down to the wire. It was Corey Steed grabbing the first ever WXC win of her career. Made the pass right there in the last section of the track to pass Brandy Richards, who ended up in second place, coming over from the West Coast, reigning, defending ISDE overall women's champion. She ends up in second place, and then Taylor Jones rounds out the overall WXC podium. Pro-Am, it was Brody Johnson by 7.5 minutes. He takes the win. Zach Hayes, your second place rider in that XC3 class, and then Hunter Neuwirth rounds out the XC3 podium. XC2 was a battle that was looking to heat up throughout the end of the race. Unfortunately, Mike Wachowski had a bit of a get-off. Lyndon Snodgrass was in the lead at the time. He holds on to the lead and grabs his first win of the season in XC2. Rui Barbosa on the podium in second place. He was stoked to be up there. And then Gus Reardon, which maybe we'll talk about that here in a little bit. He was my sleeper pick when Stu and I were talking about it before. So Gus Reardon on the podium here at round number 4. And then finally our XC1 and overall podium. Second place was Jordan Ashburn. Third place, Trevor Bollinger, Tebow, making his way back on to the podium. His first podium of the year. Pumped for Trevor on that one. And joining us now to talk about it all and how it all went down, your favorite pit reporter and mine, Stu Baylor. Stu, what's going on tonight?
Oh, not a whole lot. Just doing a little bit of babysitting myself over here. Not with my child, but with other parents' children, like Bub's Tasha, who is currently bent over in the doorway trying to show me his ass.
Right now, currently.
Right now, like as we speak, I just had to close the door.
He quit singing Luke Combs long enough to show you a little ass cheek.
He's been upset ever since karaoke, which, by the way, you missed out on this weekend. I thought we had a duet, but whatever. Listen, I got roped into a duet, and it was really bad. So you're probably lucky. Now I crushed 3 or 4 songs, at least in my Coors Light field mindset. I felt like I crushed them. May have been terrible, but I felt like I crushed 3 or 4 songs until I got to a duet, which was really, really rough. I mean, I thought I could read faster than I could. Apparently, all those years of homeschool, they really hit me hard.
So they had a screen and everything, lyrics on deck.
And yeah, they did. It was legit. I just wasn't shit. Like it was rough. It was, I got the crowd fired up though. I really wanted to stand on the podium in that parking lot 5 weeks ago, and I finally got my chance. So I grabbed it by the balls, to be honest. I mean, I got up there multiple times as if I got the whole shot and won both races. I think I got up there 4 times. So, just like if I would have got the whole shot and won both races, maybe a championship, I felt like I really got up on that podium for every round that I've missed this year. So
Are you trying to tell me we got a new points leader?
Technically, yes, because I was standing in the center every time. I mean, the crowd was screaming, so it felt like I was leading XC1 at the time. But then as soon as I got done, the tomatoes started getting thrown, the whole nine. It was rough, but no, I felt like I crushed a couple songs. We probably have some viewers that heard me, and they're probably like, dude, that was the worst shit I've ever heard.
How many times did Country Roads get played?
Actually, I don't think I heard a repeat song all night.
Wow.
It was impressive. They did it over a short window, so it was over what was supposed to be an hour and a half, but then I got there and Carrie Joe got there, and it turned into 2.5 hours. And I think being in that short window and everybody kind of listening to what the people in front of them had already sung, like, it was pretty good. I got to say, though, the crowd that I drew to the karaoke was way larger than the crowd that the XC1 boys drew to the podium. So I gotta toot my own horn there. Sorry, I'm getting competitive at this point. It's been 5 fucking weeks. What do you expect? I mean, I'm chomping at the bit. So
it was just because the quad guys were still there, man. Calm down.
It probably is. And honestly, none of them came unless they heard some cat. They honestly probably were terrified from the other side of the parking lot. They heard this god awful sound and they were like, "What is that? I got to go check it out." And it was me up there. So that was why we were drawing a crowd. That and the amount of beer. I've got some videos. I might have to post them at some point, but I guarantee my crowd was louder than any XC1 podium, any podium in general, all season long. 100%.
So
I drank way too many beers.
No such thing.
We had way too much fun. And honestly, the first comment on the GNCC post about karaoke was T-Shep. And the first response was me. And I was like, I got to say, I'm pretty upset that you weren't there. So anyways, let's get into the racing. Seeing as, I've already talked about all this. Like, obviously I was there. I was, part of the big show, like these boys, whatever. They were there too, but like not part of the big show. So XC1, Ashburn gets the whole shot and Ashburn got second. Pretty much. Don't think there was ever any pressure. Don't think there was ever a point where we were like, oh, he's coming, or oh, somebody's coming after him. Third place was actually a pretty good race for a while.
Yeah.
I got to bounce around a little bit. I was not pointing anybody lines, so I know the rules. I was in a Yamaha shirt, but that's just because it's my job. I got to ride around on the back of the media four-wheeler. I've got a broken neck, So it is what it is. Probably if Mikey would have won, he probably would have got protested because I was on a 4-wheeler. But I'm not walking clear back there. So I got to bounce around with Mason, and we got to watch some of the XC1 battles. And the first lap, got to see all the guys come up the little sketchy ditch, hill climb, whatever.
That thing was pretty gnarly,
dude. It was.
Especially for Ty.
If you were practicing, anybody would have been able to hop right up that hill. But on a race, like I've always said this, like when they throw in hill climbs or motocross sections in GNCC, it changes everything. Like something that you would do with ease any other day becomes very difficult. Like the triple they throw in at Aonia. I'll hit that thing any day of the week with my eyes closed. I mean, like I literally practice on a track that's got 120-foot quad that I hit every day. I go to that track and it's like a fucking 80-foot triple and I can't hit it. So that, like it's weird. Same thing with hill climbs. Like I'll go up any mountain. I'll go up the side of a mountain that nobody can climb. But in a GNCC, things like that become difficult because usually what happens is people overcharge the entry. And that's what was happening this weekend. People were overcharging the entry. Their tires leave the ground, unload the suspension, and when they would land on the gas, it would basically slingshot them into the next section and or back down the ditch. And I watched guys like Evan Smith, who literally looked like an idiot going up that. Like he didn't slow down at all. Ty Ely, who looked like an idiot going up that. Like I'm sorry, they're my buddies, so I can talk a little crap, but it was like it is tough. Like when you get to those sections and it's a race, you charge in too hard and you're just kind of like in that stand up zone and stand up cruising, carrying speed, and you stand up cruise right into the face of it and don't even set up for it. So, it's kind of like Stuart was talking about his little brother in his last podcast, kind of hitting the triple out of the corner going over the bars. He carried too much speed into it. His bike was unloading before the top. The same exact thing happened in that. But it was a technical little hill. I've got the same Crocs that I've had for 4 or 5 years. I mean, the quality, you gotta say, like, I mean, I'm vouching for it. But I have lost the tread off the bottom of them.
Yeah, I saw them things in action.
The tread, I fell down the hill, almost took my brother out, and Caleb was on the reverse side of the track from me. So I'm sitting there trying to get back up the hill, which I never stopped filming because, well, I mean, no good camera guy would stop filming in a moment like that.
Can't.
And so I stand back up. Caleb's like, dude, if you would have taken this front tire out and he would have hit me, he would have come up fighting me thinking that I took him out. Well, yeah, there is that. But no, the battle for third was pretty decent there for a little while. Craig DeLong took it over. Or sorry, Mike or Lane.
Lane was up there for a while.
We gotta call Lane Mike Witowski because that's what my guy on the start called him. But no, so Lane was up front, had a pretty bad crash. Right where the 3 and the 6 came together. I can't remember which way he was going, but landed on his bad shoulder and it torqued his shoulder, and that was when we started seeing him fade back there on lap 2. And then we saw Craig DeLong take it over for a brief period, and then
Grant was in the mix
the next
too.
time we saw it was Trevor Bollinger. Grant had got around Trevor or around Craig. And then Grant was putting the pressure on Trevor, fell down, lost the front end, went behind Craig, and then started trying to chip away again. And I guess he had a little fight with a Root, and the Root won. And it was just a rough day from him. And then we saw the gaps really just start to open up at that point, kind of mid-race. And then we started seeing things start move probably on the next to last lap, and that was when the fitness came in, because it was one of those tracks that was really fast. It wasn't super rough, and it became where anybody could charge and everybody could charge. So then it was a physical game, and we saw guys like Thorne Devlin make some passes there in XC2. Mike Witowski, who was riding like a pissed off teenager, threw his race away there in the end, and he really, in my opinion, he was riding. I could hear his RPMs. Like the last pit board that I told Alex Luger, who I was standing beside, to give him, because I couldn't give pit boards. I was out there filming. I said, tell him to pick his lines and be smart, because the last time I saw him, he was 2 gears too low, over top of the front end and charging, and I was like, he is going to wrap himself around the tree. And sure enough, he ended up losing his day and almost losing a championship or a points lead, because he was riding like he really didn't need to. The guy in the lead of the race, like we don't even need to talk about his name anymore, but
we started in second place.
It was just commanding. Like it was all day. He did everything right again. So boring up front, whatever. I'm over it. Like it is what it is. Nobody cares. We lost viewers throughout the live feed. I guarantee the live viewers like dropped out after lap 3.
Oh, come on now. What? So the question got asked to me. I think it was. I don't know if they want me to say who it was, but somebody asked me what the likelihood of a perfect season would be this year.
Absolutely 0 chance. Absolutely 0.
Because we got a blue bike and a green bike coming back here soon.
It's not that. It's just everybody's bound to have a bad day. Like it's not about who's coming back. Like realistically, I mean, with any other injury that I've sustained in my entire career, I've been able to do something physical. So for me to sit here and say today that I can come back and win, obviously my hopes are high and I want to, but I'm looking at next year. I will be back. The plan is hopefully by snowshoe. I've got another doctor's appointment tomorrow. I'll know a little bit more, but realistically, it's probably going to be snowshoe before I'm back. And realistically, I should wait till after summer break. But snowshoe's a fun event. It's a good time to drink all weekend and still race. And that's, I enjoy racing and I enjoy drinking, so I'm not going to miss that one. I hate golf, but it's a good drinking game, and I'll be there too. So, that's like, if there was one event that I could put my signature beside, like it's snowshoe for sure. Like they're my people. Like South Carolina and West Virginia, those are my people. Like, it is guys who love to drink more beer than anybody and still love riding their dirt bike, hate golf, but love drinking and know it's a drinking game, so we line up for it anyway. It's that's the best event for me all year. So I'll be there. I'll probably be riding around in the back, but Johnny Gerard and I were talking about it this weekend, which this guy's already like back on an e-bike, like training and shit. I'm still sitting on the couch and fussing at 11-year-olds during my training day to get to get my hot head calmed down. But and I can be competitive. I always win in training. They have to do what I said, so it worked out.
Keep working. I'm not tired yet.
Yeah, so Johnny and I were talking this weekend. We were like, yo, how sick would it be to line up at row 6 at snowshoe and come from row 6 and overall, like first and second overall? I was like, just tow me into second. I mean, I'll still be struggling, so just tow me up front, whatever you got to do. But that'll probably be my next race back. And to round it up, like on that, I don't think I genuinely do not think that a perfect season is even a remote possibility. Everybody has bad days. Do I think that he's the best rider on a motorcycle right now in the country and possibly the world? Absolutely. I mean, Ben is riding flawless. Like, don't get me wrong, he's riding really good and he's doing everything right. I don't think that he has the pressure that he's had in years past, and I do not think that XC1 is providing the competition that it has in years past.
And don't you think those two things could lead to, I mean, maybe the thought of, hey, even if we're having a bad day, I mean, on a good day, we're winning by a couple minutes. On a bad day, he'd still be right up there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a 0.01% chance. It's not.
A lot has to go right.
A lot has to go right, and a lot has to go wrong on the tail end. Now, seeing as he rides for a team who is in charge of 80% of the pro rides, then there is a chance that if every other brand, every Japanese brand drops out, then he could possibly go undefeated. But I mean, that's just I'm opening a can of worms here. I probably
Hey man,
just get watching.
what you're talking? That's a very electric statement, almost high voltage like would probably be.
I guess you could say it was very electric and almost high voltage like. Yeah, definitely.
Man, so going back real quick, I want to touch on the Mike Wachowski thing. I reached out to him just like as a buddy, just check and see how he was, and kind of seems a little bit secretive. So don't give up too much. But the crash that he posted on his social media, is that the crash that took him out of the race?
It is. So it was coming up. It was coming up the pond dam. It was in a very fast section, but. To be honest, I mean, when I saw that crash, I was like, are you serious? Like, this is what we're going to sit here and boo-hoo about? Like, at the end of the day, he didn't hit his head. He didn't knock himself out. Okay, he got a Charlie horse on his leg, and he's back riding now 2 days after the event. If you're going to ride around like that and take yourself out of the points, it better be a big damn crash. That's all I got to say. And you know what? I can sit here and I can make that statement. There may not be many people that can, but I can promise you with 1,010% certainty, I can make that statement. And if it upsets him, then fine. But I wouldn't even posted that video, to be honest. I wouldn't even want people to know that that's what took me out. He high-sided at a slow rate of speed. Yes, he was probably third gear, quarter throttle there. Got a switch swap. It would have slowed him down as you're crashing, and a high side, and probably took one of those big loose rocks to his thigh. But if you can't push through that, what makes you think as an XC2 rider you'll ever be worth XC1? I'm sorry, that's blunt. Like it's to the point. And Mike's a buddy of mine. Like I've been around Mike since we were kids, but I'm a blunt person, and that's my opinion. Is Mike the best rider in XC2? Absolutely, by a long shot. I think Mike's been one of the most talented guys in XC2 for a long time. But now seeing what I saw this weekend, I think that I've seen what is taking Mike out of the races, and I think Mike's taking Mike out of the races. It's not I don't even think that that's a personal opinion. I think that's pretty much a fact. In your mind, when you line up on a race, you have to know that you are going to do whatever, whenever, however it takes to get to the finish. And realistically, there's guys that have it and there's guys that don't. And I've talked about it before. There's guys that have the grit and the determination, and then there's guys that have the talent. And you got guys like Bubs Tasha, who has all the talent in the world. Grant Davis, all the talent in the world. And then one that I saw, like, we want to talk A-class, like Chase Colville. He pulls into the pits at Florida, pissed off, pushes his bike back, red in the face, tries to work on it himself, doesn't know what the hell he's doing, but he's trying. And that guy has determination. But at the end of the day, it's you got to find the guy that is a Grant Davis or a Bubs Tasha with the determination of Chase Colville to make it to the top. And guys like that with determination or with talent can make it to XC2 and probably be competitive. To be a top 5 competitive guy in XC1, you have to have both. You have to have you have to have confidence, you have to have determination, and you have to have talent. It's not one or the other. At the end of the day, confidence just puts you in good results, but determination and talent mixed together is what takes you to a consistent top 5 position in XC1. And if you look at most years, XC2 guys do not break top 5 for the season. They just don't. Yes, it happens. I mean, this year it could very well happen, but look what just happened. I mean, prime example. If Mike were an XC1 right now, he would have just taken himself from probably 3rd to 8th. I don't even know. I haven't even looked at points. But, that, like, when you quit like that, it's big. It's major. It can't happen. And I was in the pits when Mike pitted on the next to last lap, and I said, you have to get points. You have 7 points as it sits. There was an extended pit stop. I said, you have to get points. You have got 2 guys that are 5 minutes behind you. And I looked at the lap times, and Ryder Lafferty ran a 5-minute faster lap time. But I knew the points matter. And Mike gave up on the last lap. And that's, that stuff, like, that cannot happen. It's tough love, but I want to see Mike succeed. He's on my team. I mean, I want to see him dig deeper because I know he's capable. The guy's probably more determined in the off season and more determined in training than anybody I know. But when it comes to racing, he's got to dig deeper in the tank. I know I'm hating on him pretty hard, but those are the facts. I mean, that's got to happen, and that's what to be the best. That's what it's going to take. He could be a little smarter. I think he needs a better race strategy. And, to change subjects, you talked about Corey Steed a little bit. And
real quick. My take on Mike was not nearly as aggressive as what you just said. But I was actually standing there next to Freddie at that weird little ravine hill climb thing on the last 2 laps. And Fred Andrews with the Babbitt's team and Lyndon's team manager. And in his head, he's sitting there counting up the points in his head and like, oh, man, we're going to have a big day. We're going to gain a lot. And that's why I wanted to ask about the Mike crash and if that was the one that took him out. Because you got Lyndon, who has been right there on Mike's rear wheel now for more than a couple races. And he gets the win, which is worth 30 points. And Mike ends up 14th, which is worth 7 points. That's a 23-point spread in one weekend. And now if that XC2 championship comes down to the wire and basically is anything within 23 points, I think this is going to be a tough race to look back on.
I think so. I mean, that is, and maybe to be honest, maybe this is the best thing for Mike. Maybe getting.
He still has the lead. He's up by 1 point, so it's basically even ground with him and Lyndon. So it is still the next 7 rounds, however many rounds are left. I mean, it's an even playing field, but he was way up.
Yeah, and maybe this is the one race that changes his career because it only takes one. It only takes looking back one time and saying, "Damn, I should have done everything I could." And I know I didn't. Deep down, I know I didn't. If he genuinely knew deep down that he couldn't have done more, he wouldn't have been riding today. And that's, it's tough love. But at the end of the day, I mean, I run a training facility. I have to work with guys on the physical and the mental aspect. And that's a big part. Like if you quit on me on Sunday, then you best not be walking on Tuesday. You damn sure better not be riding on Wednesday. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just like tough love, but it is what it is. Like,
yeah.
If my dad told me if I quit a race on him, he said, I spend 40 hours a week prepping you and your brother's bike, and I spend $80,000 a year going racing, and I make $100,000. He said, by the time we get paid your insurance, I don't even have enough money to make my house payment. But we're going racing on Sunday. And he said, if you quit on me on Sunday, you better not be walking on Monday. There should not be any reason you don't get back on that bike. And some kids never were told that, or some people grow up and forget that. And that's, I talk about it. I think every podcast we've talked about people being soft, and that is a big part. Just for me, I think that's been a big part of my career and my success is the determination, the grit to keep going. And yeah, I'm not the flawless rider. I'm not the I don't have Caleb Russell's name, but what I do have is the determination to not ever give up, and that's a big part. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to have that. And Caleb had that. That's why he is what he is. He obviously had probably a lot more talent in racecraft than I will ever have. But it's the full package, and there's very few with it. But I think that Mike is one of those guys that's capable of obtaining that. To me personally, you can't teach talent. You cannot teach talent, plain and simple. But what you can do is break a horse. I mean, that's easy. It happens every day. So he's got the talent. He's got the necessities to make a very, very strong, solid career. But he's going to have to break that mentality. And I think that Mike rides with people that he always rides with people that make him feel good. And he sticks to himself so that he always feels good. I think that he's going to have to kind of step out of his element a little bit and find confidence on his own. And, maybe it's going and riding moto and just riding with top moto riders. But I don't know what it's going to take, but I think that personally, like, I would love to have Mike here for 12 months. I think that if I could break him of whatever mental side of it, I think that kid would be possibly unstoppable. I mean, I've ridden with him a lot. He's fast. I told him, I can remember I was a kid, so he was really a kid, racing LMAs together in 2016. And I was like, dude, you need to go race GNC, or you need to go race National Enduros and stop wearing as much on the GNCCs right now. Like, you're so fast that first half of a race, and you read trail good. OMAs, you couldn't walk the track. And he would pull me. I mean, the kid would pull me. He was like 15 years old. And I was that 15-year-old at one point. And I started racing National Enduros, and that's where I had early success. And I think that Mike is capable of not only winning National Enduros, but winning GNCCs. I think that a lot of it, I don't know if it's surroundings or mentality or what, but, not to get hung up on him too much. But I mean, the kid is one step away from being what I think being a great in the racing world. He's still a little younger than most of the XC1, or I think he's younger than everybody in XC1 right now. So
he's 23.
He's what? How old?
He's 23. I just had him on the show a couple weeks ago, and that's one thing that he mentioned is his age. And I was like, "Oh, how old are you?" He's like, "Dude, I'm only 23."
Yeah. I mean, Mike,
and he's been in XC2 for a long time.
He has, but a lot of people don't think that I'm 27. Most people think that I'm 35 years old because I've been in XC1 almost as long as Strang and Caleb and all those guys. But I came into my own really early. Mike was another rider that did.
Yeah.
And it's tough because you have to break through that. My brother, same thing. Like, you have a lot of early success, and then you kind of hit a wall because you've had so much success. And when you get to the pro class, it's a whole different ball game. So you get there and you have to relearn everything you thought you knew. And as a confident kid, you literally genuinely think you know everything. So when you get there, nobody can tell you anything. You're not going to want to listen. You're not going to want to hear a podcast about yourself. You're not going to want to read Facebook comments that are negative, or Instagram, or whatever the hell, like Facebook in my generation. But
he does listen to the show, so I'm a little bit.
It's okay. I mean, I would say it to his face, and I think everybody knows that. I'm not one to hide behind the scenes, but I think that Mike is like, I feel like I've said enough positives. I mean, yeah, negatives like build on it, but Mike is one of those kids that came through very early, a lot of success, and I was there. Like, literally, you look at my career, it took me until I was about his age now to find my own. I had some success early in National Enduros and early in GNCCs with XC2, and then I got injured, and everybody told me what they thought, and I was listening to nobody at first and then too many people next, and I was so confused as to where I needed to be and what I needed to do. And I found out in the long run, I needed to be myself and do my thing. And I think that's a lot of Mike. Like, you know, we've talked about him in the podcast before. He's got a new trainer, and I think that's gonna, you know, that's gonna change his mindset. I think the next thing is just changing things up. Like, not ever saying that his old trainer was bad. It's just different. Like, when you change things, it's good. So it's good to see him kind of branching out, but it's also bad for me because I do think that he could be one of those guys to take my job at the end of the day. You know, 3 years from now, that kid could be the next Ben Kelly, and being dominant in XC1. So, you know, it's literally one step away. At the end of the day, a lot of these guys, they'll probably never make it. But guys like Mike, I think it's one step away. And to me, it's that mental side for him. He's got to figure out how far will I take it? How deep will I go? How gritty will I get?
Yeah, and I mean, as long as he has been at XC2, he has been a guy in the conversation for the championship. He has been the guy to beat. So he does, I mean, there's a lot of positives.
Yeah, I mean, for the last 3 or 4 years, his name's been all, like, obviously when he was with his last team, his name probably wasn't brought up as much, but he had a couple rough years there. But before that, he was like, at any point,
still
we
a
were
podium
waiting for
guy
him to get a podium. And then, you know, he was kind of stuck on a 2-stroke, and I feel like that was kind of a crutch. And today's racing age, which, you know, it's great. You're a hard enduro guy or a rider, but, you know, GNCC is so different. You got to be on a 4-stroke. So then he moves to a 4-stroke, and he's back on top, and he's a name. You know, he's a household name if you call it that in GNCC, and he's kind of set himself aside as one of the top riders in XC2. And, you know, I think that, like I said, I really think that he is one step away from not only dominating XC2, but being a good XC1 rider. It just takes that thing that you can teach. Like, you can break a horse, you can break a rider, you can break somebody's, you can change somebody's mental side. And usually it's not, I'm saying you, but it's usually themselves. Like they have to decide that that's what they want over anything else. So, you know, he is one step away from figuring out what it takes to be the next guy. And that's easy. You know, it's so difficult as a rider from my standpoint now, looking back. Like, I would have never known that just kind of doing my own thing and being, you know, more of the whatever, I'm going to do me. I still do my work, but me personally, I have to do my own thing. That's what set me aside. That's what made me a better rider. There's other guys who have been used to doing their own thing their whole life, and they have to decide that they want a training regimen. Like Johnny Gerard, for example, I think is one of those guys who decides that he wants to do more on the training side and get in a structured program, and that's what set him aside. So it's not one answer fits all, you know, one shoe doesn't fit all, but, you know, that's, every guy has to figure out what it's going to take to change their own riding. And I think that's what it's going to take for Mike. And, you know, I hated to see him go the way that he did this weekend, but like I said, it could be the best thing for not only this year for him, but for his career, because he is riding really well, and I think he's got everything figured out on the physical side. The mental side is where he's struggling. So I think his riding's phenomenal. Obviously, he's got the talent. I think he's got his fitness down. He just needed a little kick in the ass on the mental side, and if this weekend didn't do it, then hopefully this podcast will.
When he was riding those two-strokes, good for him. He was on the best two-stroke. If you're going to be on a two-stroke, Beta Motorcycles is the official manufacturer of On the Pipe podcast. Now, going back to the age thing, so when you won your first overall at Big Buck, I'm sitting here trying to do the math in my head. How old were you, 23?
Probably.
That was 2017. It's 22 now. You're 27 now.
So I was 22.
22.
Yeah.
So, I mean, kind of like what you were saying when you started coming into your own, and now he's 23 in the XC2 class. It's just kind of an interesting perspective and going off of that. But you started to mention Corey Steed a minute ago. She grabs her first WXC win ever. She hung on right there with Brandy Richards. Brandy Richards was in the lead and then ended up getting the pass there at the end and grabbed her first overall win of her career.
Yeah, so Corey, who rode here a little bit with us, the Shoals, and I told her, I was like, you ride more like a dude than any chick out there. You should be smoking these girls. But she just wasn't doing it. I was honestly like mad at her. Like, how can you ride? I rode with her, so I know her capabilities. And I've ridden with Taylor. I've ridden with Rachel. I've ridden with all those girls, and she rides so good. It's like, it's upsetting to see her where she is. Like, she should be able to, like, honestly, if she rode as good as she could here, she would be a top 7 XC2 rider consistently.
Top 7 XC2.
I genuinely think if she could ride as good as she trains, she would be top 7 XC2. A lot of her problems, She hammers out the main line, wears herself down, doesn't really think about the big picture. And as a matter of fact, the day before the race, I was having a talk with Josh Toth about how to beat Ben, or how I thought he could beat Ben, which Toth did terrible this weekend. He really let me down. But, sorry, I hope Toth's listening. I had to throw a stab in there. That was awful. I had Josh picked as like the spoiler. Like, if somebody could do it, I really thought it was going to be Toth this weekend.
We're going to have to change this to the weekend mental breakdown with Stu.
Yeah. Like, he just...
Nobody's safe.
Especially guys that rode like that. I mean, my God, that was terrible. Like, Toth, I mean, I love you, man, but what was that? What was going on? He killed me. I really had you picked. Maybe I messed with his head. I mean, I put a microphone. That's what happened. I put the microphone in front of him and Witowski before the race, and I think I'm going to have to stop that. It's bad juju. I don't know what it is, but
so it's your fault.
Maybe that's my fault.
Except for Trevor. Work for Trevor.
Yeah,
the second time.
For Trevor. Yeah, works for Trevor. So, no, I had a talk with them, I guess Saturday night. Saturday night, about kind of managing a race and what Ben's done kind of thus far. And I basically said, if you don't have to lead and you know you're faster, then don't lead. Don't lead until you know you need to. Take a breath, regroup, and make the push when you feel like the rider in front of you is most vulnerable. And I think that Corey rode a really good race. She kind of hung back, and then I think she got a little too far back for comfort. I think she was about 40 seconds down at one point, and then just started chipping away, and got right there when she needed to. And she rode what I would call, a picture-perfect race, kind of played the competition, waited for them to beat themselves down, and made the pass when she needed to. And I really wish that Rachel still would have been in the race. I think they were all three actually battling whenever Rachel hit a lapper, hit Corey or something along those lines. I don't know, but took her sprocket out. And I think, I personally think that as it stands, that Corey is a more talented rider. Rachel's just gritty. Like she's got that grit at the end of the day. Like she's tough. So I would have liked to see all three of them. I think it still would have been a good race, and I think it would have come down to the wire either way. But I would say that even Corey is probably saying the same thing. Like I think she beat Brandy Richards, which is a huge feat regardless. But at the end of the day, GNCC is the best in the world across the board. If you're off-road racing, there is no larger event to win. So, with that being said, I think that I'm sure I would almost be positive that she's saying the same thing. Like I wish Rachel would have finished so that I could have beat her, and maybe she wouldn't have, but I think it would have been a good race regardless. And I would love to see Corey kind of figure out how to race these 3 hours and do the same thing over and over, because I think that watching her, another person kind of like a Toth or a Witowski, like has so much talent, like can read the track, like everything is so flawless, but that mindset of I have to do anything and everything to win and to push through this third hour, like, same thing there. Like they're pushing through double the traffic we have. Like there's a lot of mental side that I feel like Corey probably could work on, and that's where Rachel's been good. So I was impressed nonetheless with her ride. Like I think she finally rode to her potential, but I want to see her beat Rachel. And it's nothing against Rachel. Like she's my teammate. I want to see her do well, but I think that watching all those girls, like I love watching Corey ride. Like she's like she gets out of her element, like wheel tap stuff, or smashes a outside line and blows up the berm that nobody else is doing, and I enjoy that aggressive style. Like it, that stuff's just cool to watch. So I think that that's what paid off this weekend, and hopefully we'll see some more battles in the WXC, because Rachel's been so dominant for the first half of the season. It's no different than XC1. It's almost grown boring to watch. So again, it's nothing against Rachel, but I want to see Corey or some of the other girls step it up, and I'm glad to see Brandy out here giving it her all in the GNCCs, because that's what we're going to need to elevate the sport.
Yeah. And so we've kind of talked about the Caleb effect in years past when he did retire, and kind of that whole championship is wide open mentality that a lot of the XC1 riders kind of looked at. Do you think any of that trickles down to the WXC class with Becca Sheets hanging it up after back-to-back championships and one prior to that? Or do you think – because the level of this WXC girls, we've never seen it at this point. And Brewer Colley actually texted me the day – or actually it was the night of the race. So Sunday night, Brewer texted me. He won Sportsman A and I think got 4th or 5th place overall. And he texted me and said, a good topic for weekend review would be how fast the girls were today. I had a perfect race. I never wrecked. I took good lines the whole time and got around lappers in a fast way, and they still beat me by 2 minutes. It's insane. And then just kind of went on after that. But I mean, Brewer is a very fast rider by all means, and those girls beat him by 2 minutes. So do you think that plays any effect into it, or do you think it's just business as usual? And I mean, really, they're all pretty close.
I don't know.
The top few.
It's hard to say. I feel like after watching a lot of these girls, like a lot of them, they are as bad as it sounds. Like, dude, they're more headstrong than most of the men that I train, that I work with. That
100%.
I really like I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, I'm a big feminist, like, but the girls in the racing, like, they are more headstrong than most of the men that I've ever worked with. I do not think that there's any effect like that. I personally don't. I don't think that there's blood in the water. I don't think that it's anything like that. I think that the level of racing has grown. And to be honest, I think that Becca Sheets has been one of the most vocal females in our sport that allowed the female racing to grow. There was at one point 2 or 3 years ago where the WXC class lined up with 2 girls on the front row and another race where 4. It was back-to-back races. It was like Ohio had 4 and another one had 2, 3, something like that. Yep. Like there wasn't a full podium. It was bad. And Becca got on the podium and said, you girls need to come racing with us. Stop sandbagging. If you're out there, come racing with us. And she invited people to, come on, let's go. And she made it to where girls wanted to come racing for GNCC. They started that WXC page and a couple other things, and I think that Becca was at the root of most of that. I personally don't know if she was at the root of that. I know that it seems like Taylor and Allie have kind of taken over on a lot of that stuff, but I know that she was the one that I always heard, like, hey, girls, come on, let's go racing. Like, come to GNCCs, let's make it bigger, let's make it better. And this was when she was a second place rider. This was when Taylor was dominant. Like, it was so dominant. It was like almost anybody else lining up against her. It was useless to even try. And Becca then goes and figures it out and starts putting it to Taylor and all the girls. And actually, I think that she was a big reason that the class has grown. But I do not think that there's any, we call it the Caleb effect, where the guys are hungry because there's a shot. Like, I don't think that it's like that in the female class. Like, honestly, they all line up like they're ready to win every single time. Like, the girls, pretty much all their mentality. I mean, you gotta remember, it's a female competing in a male sport. So when they're out there, they're already defying the odds. They're not worried about winning that championship on that day. Like, they're doing 100% no matter what position they're in.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point too, I think Taylor won 3 straight championships and she's still there and still on the podium. So.
Oh, it cut out. Taylor won 3 straight championships and what? Sorry, I need to turn my Wi-Fi off.
Oh, no worries. I was just saying that she's still there, and I mean she's still on the podium. So
yeah, definitely, and I mean she's definitely one of the greatest riders to have ever thrown a leg over a motorcycle, no doubt. I mean, across the board from ISDE, I would say I don't know if it's accurate or not, but I would say she probably has more ISD championships and overalls than any other female when you combine them. I mean, she's been on that Australian team year after year after year since she was very young, and I'm
pretty sure she's got like 5, 6, 7 like ISDE overalls. Yeah. I mean, she was like, when I say dominant, I mean like it was like girls were lining up to race for second. Yeah.
So no, she's been very dominant, obviously internationally, and she's been solid, and I think that having that come to the U.S. at first it was a shock to people, and that's why you saw the girls kind of drop out of the class because she was winning by minutes, and then you had somebody like Becca who was like, screw this isn't going to happen. I'm not going to allow this. I'm going to figure out what it takes to get better. So now we see the next generation of girls, and obviously Taylor and some of the other girls that were there originally are still there. But we're seeing this new generation, the WXC is growing, and it's good to see. And we're seeing a lot of girls kind of get up in there and get in a competition. I mean, my first ever trainer on a motorcycle, Jason Raines, his daughter's up there and mixing it up for top fives. And you look through, and I would say that the WXC now is probably a more stiff class than we've ever seen in the WXC history, at least that I remember. I mean, are all the riders the best in the world? Absolutely not. But I think that we see that they're taking it to the next level, and the competition's there, and they're actually showing up week in and week out. And the girls who aren't the best are lining up with the best, and they're getting closer week in and week out. So it's good to see. And, you know, I still really think that they should race in our race personally. I mean, hell, they're faster. They're faster than most of the A riders, like 95%. There would be a lot of pissed off guys, I think, if they lined up for 3 hours.
Yeah.
You know, that I still have to go back to that dream race format that we discussed a few weeks ago, where the pro racing is on Saturday and the WXC lines up with us. But, you know, that'll probably never happen, but we can keep dreaming.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. It is crazy to see the evolution of it and how far it's came when you look back in the day, and a lot of times the WXC winner might have been 6th, 7th, 8th place overall. And now if a Sportsman A rider beats a women's rider, I mean, that's a rarity. That doesn't happen often.
And not only that, but I mean, when a Sportsman A rider beats a WXC, it's literally like you look at their name and then you go back and you're like, it's either, oh shit, they were XC1 3 years ago, or oh shit, they are the number one pro rider in their region of the country. And a lot of them, like you look through, like there's guys who are the number one pro rider in their region of the country in every series that they line up to. I'm not going to name any names, but if anybody from Louisiana happens to be listening to this, I'm sorry I had to throw a stab in there. But like the number one pro rider in their region, they line up to a GNCC and get worked by the girls. Yep. So, I mean, they're like, it is impressive. Like, I think in the last few years, what they've done and how they've kind of evolved. I mean, you watch Full Gas, like I know or Full Gas or US Sprint realistically. I know neither of them have every single XC1 and XC2 there, but if you see an XC1 rider go down in a cross test, chances are a WXC is going to be within a second or two. Mm-hmm. And that's like a 4 or 5 second tip over, which means there's 7 seconds, 8 seconds, like usually. And usually like a good test for one of the WXC girls is sometimes top 10 overall, mostly always top 20 overall. Yeah. And that is literally like, it's not, oh, we're going out here and we're going, good pace. Like when you line up for a Full Gas or a US Sprint, like you're going balls to the wall for as fast as you can. And I guess I can't even say balls to the wall if we're talking about that. But, you know, it's as fast as you can for however long. And the girls are right there with us. Like it is impressive. Like the speed that is kind of become with honestly, like you have to look back at it really goes back to probably Taylor, no different than if you look back in XC1, it goes back to Yuha and Knight. Like it takes that one person or two people to come over and change the sport.
Yeah. And we're right in the middle of it. But that's what bugs me too. Like the WXC, first of all, I feel like the sport and the riders in general don't get the coverage and attention that you guys all deserve. But then also like the women, even the women, I feel like get shunned in a lot of the media outlets. Even like when GNCC posts the results, like I've always made it a point to post the WXC results and talk about the women just because of the level that they're elevating themselves to and because of how much it's growing. And you look at other outlets and other people that are covering it, and it's like they still don't even talk about it. And that blows my mind because if you look at 5 years ago and you look now, it's a night and day difference. And I mean, I think those girls deserve just as much credit as anybody else for what they're doing and what they're able to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at their test times if you want to argue otherwise.
Yeah. But anyway, so the rest of the weekend, I know you were traveling around with Mason and talking to people, and I couldn't believe if you gave me a list and told me to write down 10 things that I didn't expect to see at the Bigger Buck GNCC. I think probably at the top of that list would be Johnny Gerard riding a bicycle around the track. Don't know how that's possible. Also, I saw a dog get stolen by some rednecks. These big old corn-fed dudes straight up took a guy's dog. Like, it is no longer that guy's dog. It went home with the redneck fellas. That might be one of the craziest things I've ever seen at a GNCC.
What happened? I mean, were they beating the dog and the rednecks didn't like it, or what?
Yeah. Did you hear about that situation?
No.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure I have it on GoPro. I need to go back and check. But yeah, so a guy, we were standing at the finish line, and a dog starts yelping. I turn over, this guy he's like holding, like pinning the dog down. I guess he was beating it. I didn't see that, but I saw him holding the dog down. This dude comes out of left field, and he says, "If you do that dog like that again, I'm going to do you like that." And starts screaming at the guy, and they start arguing back and forth, and the guy's just like, "It's my dog." He's like, "I don't care if it's your dog." And then all of a sudden, that guy's son comes over, who's even bigger, and they start talking to this guy, and by talking, I mean aggressively yelling. And eventually, they said, "If you're going to treat that dog like that, that dog ain't going home with you." And then all the leaders came through, so I'm filming it. And then by the time I look back, the two guys that approached him are holding the dog, and they are back at their campsite. And the other two guys that came with the dog are walking away. One guy sat there and argued for a little bit and ended up walking away too. So that dog transferred ownerships, and that might be one of the craziest events that I've seen at a GNCC. What'd you see this weekend? Anything cool?
Nothing like that. I mean, I drank a lot of beer on Friday night and Saturday night, but I woke up hungover, and yeah, pretty much. I don't think my stories compare. Yeah, so no. If your question is if anything cool happened after that, I can't follow that up. So I'm sorry. I sang karaoke. I got drunk with a bunch of random people, and I woke up and don't really remember what all happened, but I know I had a really bad headache. I did not see any dog nappings. Well, I'm going to keep my eyes open moving forward because that seems kind of entertaining. A lot more entertaining than the XC1 class. So, wait, did I say that out loud? Damn it, I did.
Is that, like I said, I gotta go check and see if I have the video of that one, because yeah, that was a first for me. Yeah. Tomorrow, do you find out at the doctor? Do you find out how much longer you have to wear the neck brace for?
Yes. I mean, I'm currently not in my neck brace, so don't tell anybody. But yeah.
I'm telling.
Yes, finally, I get to hear if I can finally get out of this damn thing. It is like, it's literally running my life. Like, somebody tells me to, hey, look at this. Like, if I hear, hey, look at this one more fucking time, like, I'm going to lose it, man. Like, we'll be driving down the road, and even though I'm not really supposed to be driving, I'm still driving because I can't stand not doing anything and being, like, we're making sure that my wife can take off work to take me to work. Like, it just doesn't work. So, it's getting to the point where we'll be going down the road and she'll be like, hey, look at this. And she'll be pulling up a TikTok or something, and I can't look at it. And I just, like, my response is, fuck you. Like, I'm sorry, but no. Like, kiss my ass. Don't tell me to look at anything anymore. Like, I'm so I'm so over people asking me to look at something. Hey, buddy, how are you? Grab me from behind.
Oh,
Stick
no.
it, like my old mechanic, Garrett Ward, who works for Kawasaki now, this weekend decided it would be a fun idea on Saturday morning to stick a Kawasaki sticker on the back of my neck brace as I'm going to the podium to do Yamaha stuff. I don't know how, but nobody stopped me and told me. I didn't know. I get back, I take my neck brace off because obviously I mean, I can't look back. I can't even see when somebody comes up behind me, much less know if they're sticking a sticker on me. So I get back and I take my neck brace off. I look down and there's a Kawasaki sticker on the back of my neck brace that I just did all the Yamaha podium presentation with. So
Got him.
That's cool.
Hey, man, that might have been Lyndon's good luck charm for the weekend.
Maybe it was. I'm going with it was my interview. I mean, granted, I've interviewed him every race and he hasn't won yet, so probably not. But whatever.
Hey, man, you gotta draw the conclusions where you can.
I have to live. I have to live vicariously through these guys now. Like I mean, it is what it is. But that's kind of where I'm at. Like I can't race, so I've just got to live vicariously through their results. And if I'm the bandwagon guy right now. Like I'll jump on any bad bandwagon. Just let me know who's winning. Like I mean, that's kind of where I am. Like I'm so competitive that if you're in second, I'm not even cheering for you. Like personally, I'm the biggest Ben Kelly fan ever right now. Hats off to that guy. I'm cheering for him next race for sure. I mean, unless he's in second, then not so much. But
it's a good time to be a Ben Kelly fan, I guess.
Yeah, so then I'm whoever's beating him. So right now, like I'm a big on the podcast guy.
Hey.
Like just because it's a winning podcast, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, man, that's what I like to hear.
I'm on the bandwagon. Sign me up.
I hope it's winning because I think I'm about to be a lot more committed to this thing in about 12 hours.
We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, next week we got some news.
Dropping bombs.
You doing anything this weekend? Going any races or hanging out?
I think, personally, I don't know how this is all going to work out, but the plan is, as of now, I am going to peace out from the East Coast, drop down to Louisiana, go to the old boot, haven't been for a while. It's bow fishing season. If everything goes well tomorrow with my appointment, I'm coming back. I'm loading up the RV, and I am shooting down to shoot some fish. So that's my plan.
RV to Louisiana sounds about like $7,000.
It's not cheap. So the last message I sent Ginger Billy earlier was if you really think you're good at making vehicle modifications, try to figure out how to get me a 40 mile per gallon RV, because between the kid and the diesel prices, it's hurting over here. So I mean, there's definitely some parents that listen to this show like, holy shit, I did not know it was this expensive having a kid. I know you don't know T-Shep, but just, wow. Don't expect it to be cheap. And I'm like one of those people when like I'm racing and money's coming in, like I don't think about money. Doesn't bother me. Don't think about it. Don't care about it. Whatever. If it goes in, it goes out. It's gone. And usually I have enough that I don't have to worry about it, but that's only when I'm winning. And now it's like, whoa, bud, you need a new diaper? I think we might wring this one out. Not really, but if it was up to me and the wife wasn't sitting here, we'd be wringing diapers out at this point. I mean, this kid will drink like 17 bottles a day and then piss all over himself. And then on top of that, I got a diesel motorhome that burns like a gallon an hour while we're sitting at the race. And if you turn the air conditioner off, I can live without it, but that kid sure as hell can't. So it's a lot of work. I didn't know what I was signing up for. Actually, I didn't even sign up for this. It was the Fireball.
Now the truth comes out.
9 months later, here we have him.
Levi Fireball Baylor.
I can tell you the exact night it happened. Don't know if that's too much in detail, but High Point last year, dust race, or the year before last, dust race. Landon Wolf got a championship in the quads. He had the
and you forgot to do a
out.
filter change.
And everybody else had to do a filter change except me because, like you said, I forgot. And whenever I forgot, I just accidentally ended up in the lead. But regardless, that was the night. That was the night that old Levi Fireball Baylor popped out. So, well, 9 months after that, but yeah, damn it. So, anyways, long story short, stay away from Fireball, especially if you can. Yeah, stay away from it. Bad stuff, dangerous.
Dropping all sorts of knowledge on this episode.
Yeah,
last question, man, and then I'll let you go. I know before, and I guess this would be a better question to ask after tomorrow, but just something to keep in mind. I know before you're kind of optimistic about maybe being able to make the National Enduros, which I know the next one is definitely before Snowshoe. Is there any thought that's been put into that, or is that kind of...
We just have to see how tomorrow goes.
Yeah.
I talked to my mechanic today.
There's actually 3 of them before Snowshoe. So I guess that's
Really?
a dumb question. I should be a better host.
Well, hopefully I'm cleared for Snowshoe then. Because if not, I'm really taking myself out of that series. I did not know they were back to back like that.
Yeah,
I have to look up the schedule. I just knew the next one. That was all I was worried about.
Yep. I didn't realize that was the same thing. Like Sumter happens, and then the next one's like 3 years later, and so I just didn't even think about it. And then I just pulled up the schedule as I was asking that, and yeah, it's basically every other weekend with the GNCCs.
Wow. Yeah, so we got Virginia, then Missouri 2 weeks later. Wow. Babe, it's time for me to start training. You're going to have to stop letting me eat so much.
All right, there's your motivation.
She told me that she's already told me that, and that I'm not listening. Okay. Crumble cookie's good. In my defense, crumble cookie. You're the one that told me about crumble cookie. They need to stop releasing their flavors. Oh, fuck. Don't even look. If you've never been to crumble cookie, don't even look at it. Don't go. Just warning you now. Don't even forget that she even discussed that. Anyways, I guess it's time to get in shape. I was thinking that we would have one and then have a little bit of break, but hell, we go right to Missouri after that one. So, you threw that one on me. Thanks, Tyler. I was planning on drinking for the next few weeks, showing up there and pulling a hot 5 and then getting in shape. But I guess I better, after I finish this beer, I better stop drinking.
At least till the next time, anyway.
Yeah, till tomorrow. Till next time, whatever.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't even realize that until I pulled up the schedule after I had already asked the question. So now we know.
Yep.
But
now we know. I mean, you laid that. I don't even know how to answer that one. You laid that one on me so hard. Like I don't even know. I don't even know what to say there. So, except I better get in shape quick.
Man, they're smoother. Not as many people ride on them. A little bit slower because it's tighter. You got it.
Yeah. Right. You would think I would knew it. I knew what I was doing there. But
just take your transponder and stick it to somebody else's bike.
Josh, I'm sticking it on Josh's bike.
See, look, you got it planned. Just the rear fender, so there's a little separation in the beeps. Perfect. Sounds good. You know, those sticker transponders are usually a couple seconds off anyway, so yep.
don't even matter.
There is that. But good
Well,
things, no overalls ever get decided by less than a couple seconds, right?
Oh, no. Never. Never heard of that.
All right, man. Well, appreciate your time. I'm glad that we were able to get together and do the show. Appreciate you reaching out. And
Mike is going to be upset. Who else did we piss off this one?
there was somebody else. Who was it?
There was somebody else. I just wanted to give my condolences to Mike. He's a buddy of mine. He's probably not going to talk to me for at least a couple weeks now.
No. See, the way this works is everything you say gets put back on me. And so he's just not going to talk to me ever again, and it's my fault.
It's okay. It'll be all right. We'll figure it out. We'll work through this.
We're only 8 other people are listening, so we're good.
Perfect.
But man, thanks
we
for
have 9 listeners, and he happens to be one of them.
Speaking of 8 listeners, so many messages that I got over the past 2 weeks were people thinking that perhaps maybe another online show that's not a podcast stole you, and that was going to be your new home. So,
no, absolutely not. Just because we didn't cover the sprint enduros.
Do what?
There was nothing. Why? Just because we didn't cover the sprint enduros?
Yeah, well, most of it's my fault. Last week and then this week.
I mean, there was nothing to talk about last week.
Yeah.
And then this week, I'm doing home renovations. So I got tied up one night. You got tied up the other night.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is what it is. You work all day, but you should think about quitting your job.
Dude, it's funny you should say that. My excuse for the past 2 weeks won't be an excuse for the next few weeks. Well, it might be. I might have 2 weeks where I have to give you a notice that it could be an excuse still, and then after that.
All right, then. We'll talk about this in a couple weeks.
All right. Sounds good, man. Thanks again, as always, for your time. Awesome episode, and cool to pick your brain. And...
Wait. One rider we didn't talk about. 3rd place XC2.
Gus. Oh, wait. 2 riders we didn't talk about. What did you have to say about Gus?
I'm impressed.
Me too.
Shocked.
Whenever he came by, I was like, "Is that's the 3rd green plate?" But that was Gus. Gus is in 3rd?
Yeah, I was absolutely shocked. Good for him. He's got a good mentor. He's got the speed. Really expected to see Mason Simmons in front of Gus before or after a 3-hour, but no, that was really, really a good ride. I think that kid, he's young, right? 17?
17 years old.
I do not think that we've seen an XC2 rider at that age, and I may be mistaken. You would have to look back. But I want to say the last 2 XC2 riders that I could think of at that age would be my brother and Mike Witowski, possibly Josh Toth. I mean, there's only ever been a handful of XC2 riders at that age. I would say probably less than 5 in the history of XC2 since, 07, something like that. So, I mean, that's one of those things where if you're that age on the XC2 podium, most likely you will have an XC1 career, because I don't think that there's ever been a rider who at that age finished on the podium and didn't have an XC1 career. Yeah. So that's one guy for everybody. Yeah, he may not back it up with another podium, but that's a guy that got the taste of it, and he's young. He knows what it takes. He's just got to get everything lined up, and he's got the right guys to get there. So,
I don't, because last year when he came over and just did one race, he was running 2nd and 3rd the whole time. I'm pretty sure it was Iron Man. I just didn't want to say it because I wasn't positive, but he was running 2nd and 3rd the whole time and had a mechanical. That's why when we talked at the beginning of the season, he was kind of my sleeper pick of guys that's going to turn heads and you're going to learn their name this year. And then here we are, round 4. He's on the damn podium.
Yeah, good pick. Good pick.
Can't even get his after nines license.
I gotta say, I wouldn't have picked him.
You were what?
I would not have picked him.
So my story with Gus, I met him and his brother Will at a brewery one night. Which, come to think of it, I don't even know how either one of them got in. No, he wasn't drinking. He was just there.
I was just kidding. I don't like him anymore.
He might drink. I don't know. He can't drink at a bar. I know that for sure.
I mean, I couldn't at that age either, but I figured out a way.
So I think they were just there with the Strangs, and Lyndon. But I met him and I was just kind of talking to him, and I didn't know anything about him at that time. And I just met him, and they were like two nice kids. And I was like, oh, so obviously you ride and stuff. Are you pretty quick? And he's like, yeah, I'm all right. And then we went to a full gas. I think it was like the next day or that weekend. And he like overalled one of the tests. And I was like, dude, I didn't know you were that fast.
I didn't think it at all. I mean, I know the name. Like we've heard the name quite a few times, but I didn't think it. And he's one of those kids. Like he's a good kid. He's quiet. He's shy. Like he's that good level-headed kid that you wouldn't know how fast he is. So no, I think that's probably a little bit of my reasoning for not picking him either. Like, I didn't think that he was that fast because he doesn't let on to be that fast.
Yeah. Speaking of all those things that you just mentioned,
we had one more that we forgot that we skipped over. Was it Rui? And he obviously had a great ride, or is it somebody else?
It is somebody else, and the adjectives that you just described to use, Gus, would be also how I would describe this past weekend's top overall amateur who got their first top overall amateur of their career, Tyler Palmer.
Yep. Actually, hold on. I know it's loud. Sorry. I gotta throw the garage door down. Boys left my shit open. Yeah, Tyler. I want to say he was in front of every XC3 rider by the end of lap 1. Or
physically?
At least by the middle of lap 2. I know he's in front of Brody at the middle of lap 2.
Physically or overall?
What's that?
Physically or overall?
Physically. I want to say by the middle of lap 2, I think he was in front of every XC3 rider. So, yeah, really good. And I've seen him ride. All those boys come down here and ride a good bit during the off season, and we ride with them. You know, we go hit Sumter, and I've seen him ride for the last 2 seasons, and you know, it's no different than Strang kind of commented on the post, like about time we saw you ride the way that you should, and
the way that you practice.
Ride the way you practice. Yeah, so he's always kind of been there, but I think this weekend he just got the start and started picking guys off and rode the race that he needed to, and it just, you know, everything clicked. They're in the middle of the race. It looked like he was going to lose it until Grant Davis kind of pushed out and threw it away. But, you know, he rode a very smooth race. I think that he's going to have to figure out, I don't know, maybe a little nutrition for the middle part wherever he started fading there in the center. But he rode, I mean, I would say that if he didn't have to go through XC3, his first lap would have been top 5 XC2. He rode a really, really impressive race. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, I've got nothing bad to say about Tyler there. He's kind of coming into his own, and you know, everybody kind of sees him always riding with Strang, and Strang's one of those guys. Like I always tip my hat to Strang. Like he's a hard worker. He's very talented. He's very smooth. He's just one of those flawless riders. You watch Strang, and it's like it just looks so effortless, and he's always on a different line than the guy in front of him. And you know, I think that Tyler's going to have a good career as long as he, you know, sticks with those guys. And Tyler's still young, so he's still got a lot of racing ahead of him.
Yep, for sure. And he's also very critical of himself. And you see that when he doesn't have a good race on his terms. And it was cool. I got to talk to him right before he went up on the podium. But, I mean, he's just smiling ear to ear. And that's the first thing I said to him was like, man, I can't wait to see a happy Instagram post from you. So I was stoked to see Tyler get up there and get that 250A win and get his first overall amateur win of his career.
Yeah, definitely. That was definitely a good race for him. And I kind of mentioned Rui, but I saw Rui. I was when we were on the way out of the race. He was clear up by the gate because there wasn't much service there, and he was out by the gate on the phone with his family, talking about the race, and you could just see him smiling ear to ear as well, and discussing everything that was going on throughout the day, and making phone calls. I think everybody that kind of drove by gave him the old honking wave. I was right there in the train of XC1 guys that were pulling out at the same time, and he was stoked on his day. So it's good when you see the international guys. I mean, obviously, I love seeing the U.S. guys win, but it's cool to see that we are in a series that everybody in the world wants to come and try to compete at. And it's good to see those guys get a little bit of traction and have a good day as well.
Yeah, and the way that Rui kind of lit up on the podium, and I wish I could remember exactly what he said, because his English isn't the best. I mean, he speaks English, it's not the best, but just the gratefulness that he had. And, I mean, you think of the XC2 podium, there wasn't an American on it. And, I mean, these guys coming from across the world with a couple bucks and a dream, I mean, it's got to be a surreal feeling to be so far away from home and work at this and then get on a podium and kind of see your hard work pay off. So Rui was another one that I was like genuinely like, I was happy to see him up there and happy to see his reaction to it, because he's a guy that, I mean, he's been right there for the past year and a half, and it was cool to see him put it together.
Yeah, and I raced the ISD down there, and when we were there for that event, I can remember the fans down there lit up for him. He was the guy. He was. Hey, who was fifth in XC1? Sorry, this is completely in left field. Oh, Thorne, never mind. I was about to say, fourth place was also a foreigner. Was it like a full top five? But no, I remember Thorne got it. So
yeah, Ben Herrera.
Because Liam was fifth until then, so it would have literally been a full foreigner top five. But,
and then Jack Edmondson right behind Liam.
Yeah. So 6 of the top 7. But yeah, so Rui, like when we were down there, it was like everybody was stoked on Barbosa. I mean, it didn't matter how he finished; like he was the local guy. So, it would be like if today Ben Kelly left and went to race over in Europe, and not just went over there, but went over there and had to demote himself to a different class from being the number one guy in his country. Like, the mentality has to be tough to break through to want to go to another country in the first place. But then also when you get there and you're not the number one guy in the country, that has to be kind of overwhelming. But you see a lot of these guys do it, and it's cool to be one of the countries that those guys choose to come to. Yeah. So, it lets you know as a racer, like when you beat guys at a GNCC, you're not just beating guys at a GNCC, you're beating the best in the world. So it's awesome seeing guys like Rui. Like I said, I mean, I've been in his country. He's the man in his country, and to come over here and be competitive here, it's cool to see, because that stuff is good for everybody, but especially the guys in the U.S. here. Like we, even though we got to sit here and say, oh, that guy could take my job, it's also, I mean, there's got to be a little pride there. Like, hey, we're the country that everybody wants to go to.
Yep. And imagine the people, like the young kids back home from his country, in Australia, in Europe, wherever they're at. I mean, they watch these guys come over here and do it and reach their goals and chase their dreams and have success at it. And then it just makes it that much more realistic for them. So
yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh. I just got attacked by beetles. I've never seen anything like this. We're going to have to get the hell off here.
Was it Ringo?
I literally thought it was pouring down rain, and I opened the door. And, hold on.
Attacked by beetles, this sounds
I mean,
serious.
Can you hear this in the background? Like, dude, it literally sounds like it's pouring down rain. The beetles are going to... I've never seen anything like... I didn't even know beetles like this existed. By the thousands. This is wild. I opened the door and 20 of them flew in. With,
Damn.
like, cracking the door. I thought it was pouring down rain. I went to look and check the weather. What in the hell just happened?
Beetles.
But no, I think we've just about covered anybody. My condolences to the guys who probably hate me now, but it's okay. It might be for the best, or maybe you're just going to hate me forever, but it is what it is. I'd say it to your face. So if I'm going to say it on a podcast, I'd say it to your face. I'm not talking shit behind your back. That's just me. Just truth. Just speaking the truth. If you don't like it, too bad. If you like it, great. Come find me. I'll talk shit more. I promise.
Good deal. We'll let Ryder and the boys know that now they have something to listen to when they go running in the morning.
Hey, after our little talk about Ty Ely, look what he did this week. The old boy was up in the battle. His goal for the season was to pull a top 5. He said, I'm not even fast enough to run with those front guys. And he was in the lead, in the battle for the lead all day long until the last lap. So hey, I'm personally accrediting this podcast, whether he likes it or not.
They got it in the back of their minds. In those tough races and those tough situations, they know what's coming.
Exactly. All right. Well, sounds good. I'll catch up with you. Probably not after this weekend. Not a whole lot going on, but after the following.
Yep. Camp Coker.
Unless we got some big news, maybe we'll talk it next week.
Yeah, I'll text you about my meeting in the morning, and you text me about your doctor's appointment.
Sounds good. All right, we'll see you.
All right, man. Thanks. Bye.